Friends, what a wonderful time we've had together. Hasn't this been amazing? Haven't your hearts been touched? Haven't your minds been going since the moment you came in the door? Hasn't your soul been enriched and rooted in the work of this assembly? You know, friends, we have been working on this assembly, of course, for a long time. And we've been working even longer on what it might mean to be united women in faith, what it might look like, how we might feel about it. And in these past several months, I've been thinking about some experiences that I had doing musical theater in high school. Yes, I can still remember high school. You work on your own piece, right? You do the sets. We painted, we drilled, we did all of that work. You worked on the choral parts, right? Lots of choir rehearsals, lots of waiting for the tenors to find their pages. Oh, I see there's some choir people out here. And the lights, and the orchestra. Violins, try tuning again, right? And the marks on the stage, the characters, sometimes even some accents. Heaven help us, the accents. And then suddenly, it's opening night. The lights come up, the orchestra plays together, thanks be to God. And it begins to happen. Pop. The story takes over. Pop, pop. The characters pull from the energy of the audience, and they shine through. All of that learning, all of that preparation comes together in an amazing way that you never thought was possible. That's what it's like for us now, we're working on this brand, we're working on this identity, we're working to see God's call into the future. And pop, here we are. Pop, pop. Around the connection, people are seeing the potential. And it makes me wonder, so where could we be in 5 years? Or in 10 years? What are the things that God has in store for us? So I imagine women connected together online, connected in person locally, making deeper impact. I imagine a community where diversity is baked in. It's not something we struggle with every day. It's part of who we are because we know that it's necessary to be who God calls us to be in the world. I imagine a community that's so compelling that women are coming to us and saying, could I join? Is there room for me? I imagine a community of fierce, compassionate, powerful women known as United Women in Faith. Friends, can you see it? Do you yearn for it? Can you almost taste it? So it's important right now for us to say, so what will it take for us to get there? This morning I want to say there's 3 things that it seems to me are critically important to where we're going. One is impact. We need to make an impact, and we need to tell about the impact so others will engage and spread the work. The second thing is sisterhood. If there's anything these past 2 years have shown us, is that we need the power of connection, of care, of surrounding, of belonging. And we know that others need it too, extending the sisterhood. And finally, it will take a personal commitment from me and from you, and we can begin today. So what gives us impact? What shapes the impact that we have in the world? One of the things that allows us to have impact is nimbleness, agility, to be able to pivot to the needs of the world as they emerge. Again, the past 2 years has been proof that we can pivot when we need to. Moving so many processes of our organization to virtual successfully. We have a new board that met in person the very first time here at Assembly. They've been working hard, and we're moving on. Today, 1/3 of our Assembly participants are virtual. It's huge. Sisters, we're so glad you're part of us. Of course, being able to be nimble is based on a platform of steady, consistent work. If we'd been trying to make up our elections on the fly, we would not be where we are. Steady, consistent work is also characteristic of our partners. Think about the national mission institutions that you know best. Steady, consistent work, working in community. Not too long into the pandemic, the Connect newspapers, USA Today, reached out to us because they knew that we would be a source of information about what was happening in communities. Not just at the core, not just the public statements, but what was happening on the ground. We were thrilled to be able to give them the names of several of our national mission institutions, and I want to highlight just one today. Wesley Community and Health Centers in Phoenix was one of the institutions whose names we supplied. They have a center that serves the West and South Central Phoenix, and they set up drive-by vaccine stations in a community where they had long relationships and were trusted, and the COVID positivity rates were 3 times the state average. Now, how did they do that? They built on this long history. They knew their community. The community trusted them. They had expertise. They had relationships with United Methodist Women and others, and they had resources. So when we think about the impact, we think about nimbleness, expertise, delivery, but we also think about telling the story. So the ability to be the organization, one of the organizations that Gannett reached out to, helps us to tell the story of impact, and it helps us broaden the impact. Similarly, we've heard a little bit this weekend about the pilot projects in Africa. When they built those country teams, and we saw some of their representatives yesterday, the team structure includes a communicator. They knew that they wanted to be able to tell the story, and that they were going to be in a position soon to recruit new team members, to spread the word, to enlist more, to engage more women in their place and nearby in the work. And so on our website and on the UM News site, you'll see the stories that these sisters have been writing that tell about the impact. We need to tell our story. And not just the stories of the meetings, of the gatherings. The gatherings are important, they're critical, and they're incredibly fun. But the impact is what people outside the organization need to know. So get those horns out, get them polished, and start tooting your own horn. We also need to bulk up and expand the way we engage our sisterhood. We are a place, and we can be even more a place where women of all ages, all ethnicities, cultures, economic classes, LGBTQ women, straight women, rural women, urban women, all know this as a place where they can feel safe and belong. As we heard yesterday, one of the places to begin is by listening to our sisters, hearing their stories, letting their stories sit with us, not thinking about how our own story will fit in. We have spiritual relationships that deepen that sisterhood. And we have tools to expand that through soul care and the way we build personal nurturing into our own ways of gathering. The sisterhood celebrates together. We grieve together. And we have fun together. As we heard yesterday, fun, socializing, low barrier to entry activities is a great way, a great event to bring new women in. Sometimes the work seems pretty huge, and the social activities can be a doorway to building relationships that will bring women into the experience of United Women in Faith. As we did the research that led up to today, we realized that we had work to do for the sisterhood. We saw again that the generations of women in this organization and outside have somewhat different points of view. So as you prepare to do the work, one of the great questions would be, so what are the most significant differences? Let's focus on the big pieces, right? Big differences in styles and in strategies, but the core commitments, the values, the work for justice, the love of God, and the care for women and children are shared values. Friends, that's great news. Let's listen to a conversation between Cheryl and Anita and hear some of their conversation about these very questions.
I believe that all men have value, innate value from our Lord Jesus Christ.
I'm concerned about climate change, police brutality, racial injustices, for women's rights and immigration reform, LGBTQ rights.
So I think that women's rights have to be interconnected with human rights. And although we have a Black female vice president and a newly elected Black female Supreme Court justice, despite these historic accomplishments, women and girls still do not have the rights to make decisions around their own bodies.
Women's rights have come a long way, but not far enough. I know we just met, but I feel like we have this kinship with what we're both fighting for and our values.
I agree, Anita. I know I've just met you, but I can see that we believe a lot of the same things. And I don't understand why it seems so often that our generations are fighting against each other.
I think we just have different communication styles. Our generation loves things to be quick and efficient. So if we are able to donate to an organization with a tap of a button, we'll do it immediately. And that way we can move on and just keep doing more other things.
But I'm still old school. Give me my credit card, give me my checkbook. and I can get it paid. I guess our style is we think things more thoroughly, but then that comes with age also. Yeah, it's a time and place for everything. And I think our time is not completely in the past, but it is time to pass on the torch.
Your work is so much appreciated. Like, our generation does know for sure. And which is why we're fighting so much harder as well, because we know the groundwork that you've laid out. And so we want to just like basically make the older generation proud.
But you all are making a difference in the world today and making it better for my grandson. And I admire all that you do and the avenues that you utilize.
It's a wonderful conversation, right? Didn't you wish that you could be part of it? I want to hear the things that we didn't actually fit into the video also. But what I did hear is that Anita and Cheryl's core values are the same. They have the same underlying commitment to human rights, to women's rights, to racial justice. And both of them are inspired to take action. They don't necessarily do it in the same way. Their style and their approach may be different, but they are engaged. Anita's looking for something quick and efficient. She gives online and then moves on. She connects online to join in-person activism. Her world is driven by social media and virtual interactions. I think Anita will love our new all-access membership model. Cheryl, on the other hand, has a long history of in-person organizing and support for the causes that are very important to her. She gives by check. Yes, I heard you. Yes, I heard you. And she has time and she has funds to commit at this point in her journey. One of the reasons the conversation was great was because they listened to each other, they honored each other, and they valued each other. Cheryl values the tools that Anita utilizes. She doesn't necessarily want to use them herself, but she's convinced that that's part of making the world a better place for her grandson. And she's thinking about passing the torch or the baton for Cheryl to pick up. Our new organization will celebrate both of these valuable women and all of the things that they can contribute. So, sisterhood means listening to needs, meeting women where they are, supporting the flexibility for new women to organize in new ways, honoring different entry points, and working to make the different entry points available to people outside the current membership. Soul care retreats, legislative action days would be a great time to invite new activists to join us. Service opportunities, podcasts, online giving, and online ways of participating are all part of the tools that we have to engage a broader sisterhood. And our job is to support and rejoice in it all. So, now I'm curious. How many of you participated in the launch on March 3rd? Oh, I see some hands. How many of you thought you might have missed it and the launch was finished? Ha. I have a surprise. The launch continues. And we're all part of it. The energy, the excitement, the joy of the launch has to continue. And so one of the things I want to talk to you about today is our personal engagement. When we met with the consultants talking about the brand and how we would do it and how this kind of thing works in a membership organization and where would the energy come from and what would sustain it, one of the things they talked to us about was brand consistency. Now, I'm not going to give you a marketing lecture today, but I do want to say that this is a concept that's important, and it's not a strange thing to us. Think about walking into a store. Sometimes before you hit the doors, sometimes when you step into the door of a store, you're already experiencing the brand. The colors, the music, the way the design of the store is. If you notice the contrast, stores side by side, they have different flooring. They have different arrangements. They use their space in a different way. And many times in a clothing store, you'll see that the salespeople are wearing the products that are available for sale. That's brand consistency in a retail setting. From the minute you enter, you're surrounded by the characteristics that they're putting forward. Now, for us, it's not a retail setting for sure, but the idea of brand consistency is the same. So the doorway, the logo are consistent. The colors are used in the same way. The messaging and how we tell the story, the focus on impact, the ability to say you can be involved. You can do your part. You don't have to do it all. You can do the part that works for you. And including actions and results that are connected to what we want to deliver, connected to making a difference in the world, and that show both by tone and by attitude that we're open to expanding the sisterhood. Another thing they said to us about brands in general and organizations is that what's important, the words are important, the components are important, but they're important because of how they make people feel. The way people feel about the organization is what draws them to us. For us, the great news is that there is an amazing amount of onboarding and consistency already. I'm just joyful every day in my email when I get a conference mailing or a district mailing or a local unit mailing that explains that we're now United Women in Faith, that uses the new colors, that uses the new logo, and that makes the connection to the long work of our organization through its many names to the work that we're doing today. So friends, I want to say that brand consistency requires all of us, right? That's the consistency part, that when people engage with our organization, they need to see who we are. As we go on in this, as we go from here, we have to live the brand. We have to walk the brand. We have to talk the brand, maybe even breathe the brand. And the brand consists of several characteristics, let's say. One of them is that as we go forward, we're working on a fresh sense of who we are. Now, to be fresh, we have to say the things that are important to us, which are not so different from the things that were important to us in the past, but we have to say them in a new way that catches people's ear in a new way, just the way we've been doing this weekend with our scriptural journey. The texts are not new, but the way we have heard them is new. Another attribute that we want to represent is that our work should be inspiring. We should be able to help people to see where we're headed. You should be aspirational, not so lofty that you think, well, we'll never get there. But we should be moving forward in a hopeful way to the things that are in front of us. Another attribute that we have in the brand is that we want to be inclusive. The inclusivity is shown by engaging in a person-to-person way, in a conversation. We're looking for collaborating. We never want to be domineering. So we want to look at the things that hold us back or keep us quiet and say, how can I engage in that? Another thing that is important to the brand is that we are an organization that is life-changing. We want others to know that this is an opportunity to engage in life-changing activity, which means that we need to build our events, our contacts, our programs to make space for the time that it takes for us to respond, to plan for life-changing encounters. We're inviting in that way, and we're not condescending to persons who haven't joined. And we don't think that we had a life-changing experience once, and it will never happen to us again. Thanks be to God, that's not true. We're also an organization that wants to communicate things that people want to hear. So how we say things, we should be inspiring, we should be bold, we should be life-changing, we should be fresh, we should be inclusive, and most of all, first and foremost, and undergirding everything, we should be spiritual. That's what calls us. That's what calls us forward. That's what roots us. That's what makes us come back again and say, yes, we're going to do the next thing. When we're talking about our spiritual values and our commitment to Jesus, we need to be genuine and not preachy. It's very important that we do this, and friends, I know that sometimes this can be uncomfortable because it's so personal, so close to our hearts. But I believe that you and I can find a place that is personal, that's maybe just at the edge of our comfort zone. It doesn't push us off the cliff, but says something meaningful to the people that we're with. So showing the values, speaking the values, representing the values. And it's important, it's critical. The purpose of the work, the purpose of the brand and the reframing is that it helps us to fully experience God's abundant love. It helps us to share the vision that God lays before us of an integrated, bountiful, thriving community who knows God's love and is strengthened together to build a flourishing world. Because the amazing thing, the truly amazing thing about what we're doing is that God actually trusts you and me to have a role in doing God's own work in the world. God's work, driven by faith, energized by all that we have before us. So, now is our chance to live the vision, to make an impact, to build the sisterhood, to be change makers in a change-making organization. So, are you ready? Are you feeling bold? Are you feeling empowered? Are you feeling excited? Are you really ready? I'm ready. Let's do this. Let's turn it up.